And so good morning once again to one and all. This is, I think, yes, a Friday morning, and Pat McGart's in Donegal waiting. How are you this morning, Pat?
Grand, Jude. It's to do the usual weather update. It's got ominous actually. It was beautiful about half an hour ago, but it's got there's ominous dark clouds above us. I hope
Well,
that's not what do you call that, Jude? A harbinger of things to come.
There isn't a raven outside your door croaking.
Exactly.
Days like this are great as long as they're warm. Here I am sitting in your shirt, and not a tremor of cold. And
not at all. In the world of change place.
It's good. It's good. Better times coming. Okay, right, Pat. Enough of our personal dealings.
Frivolities.
Let's move into the political gladiatorial arena. Now, this is officially supposed to be what it says in the papers. And a couple of items I've picked out are, let's start with this one. It's by Mick Heaney in the Irish Times. And he's talking about the independent polling, supposedly independent polling agency that Sinn Féin employed up until, I was 2016 or something, to get information, get people to tell them stuff about their voting intentions and other things. It was anonymized, as they say now. I never knew anonymous was a verb, but anyway,
anonymous. It's actually now in action.
And oh God, they really were going after him. I want to talk about Pat Kenny's approach to it with Owen O'Brien in News Talk, because that's quite funny. But anyway, what's your own thoughts on it, Pat?
I was actually coming back on Wednesday from Mayo. And I was listening
I like the way you dropped that in casually.
Casually, yes, and we can travel now. And I was listening to the 1 o'clock news, and Brian Dobson they were talking about housing, as far as I recall, and then he said to Owen O'Brien, before you go, Owen, I have to bring this up, and he went in about this thing about fake polling companies, and you talk about my mother used to use he was in high dudgeon. O'Brien was sort of nearly accused of raping and pillaging his way through Donnybrook and RT. And I thought, wait a minute. So somebody went out and asked a few people, what way do you intend voting? Now, I accept it probably wasn't the most, ethical way of doing it. But Jude, if I go up to you and say, and I don't disclose I'm from Sinn Féin, you're living in the Donegal Northeast. What can I ask you? What way in 10 vote? Oh, I'm going to vote Fianna Fáil. That's one off to Jude. Okay, it's no big deal. It wasn't a massive crime. No, it wasn't like robbery of the Northern Bank or putting a bomb under somebody or whatever. Like it's a minor, but it was made out as if, oh, this is typical Sinn Féin and all the rest of it. No, Jude, even at the time I was listening to, and I was saying, this is a mountain being made out of a molehill. This is Dublin 4 at its very best.
Yes.
But anyway, that's fine. Next thing, listening to the news talk that evening, and Leo Varadkar comes on, and Leo Varadkar says, yeah, we did it as well. And suddenly, it's all off the agenda, and so on. But Pat Kenny got Owen O'Brien on and sort of went at him. And now, Jude, you know more about that one than I do, so I'll defer to you on that one.
Well, I only got it from the article by Mick Heaney in the Irish Times this morning, and it was very, very interesting. As you've described it, it was Sinn Féin was posing as, or the members posed as, or pretended to be. They didn't say we are a marketing company. I don't think they said, but I think they wore badges indicating that they were an independent polling company, and that was deception. That's true. There's no getting around that. It was deception. Pat Kenny, however, said it was grilling. Mick Heaney described it very well. The way that Pat Kenny on News Talk grilled Owen O'Brien, and if you thought Brian Dobson was bad, you should listen to what the quotations from the interview with Pat Kenny. Pat Kenny said, Owen O'Brien said that, we were a reasonably small party at the time, so we did our own.
2007.
And he leapt on that. He leapt on that, and he said, he says, I'm not going to. That's ridiculous. Be pleading the poor mouth, and that's why he broke the law. Or not the law, but you did a deception. Pat Kenny said, and this is a quotation, it's a bit like saying, I haven't got the money
to run the campaign,
to mount a campaign,
So I'll rob a bank.
I'll rob a bank, and we know where the finger was pointed for the Northern Bank robbery.
Yeah.
At which point, which was quite clever of him, you know, to get in the Northern Bank as well as this polling thing. But I think O'Brien apparently stopped him in his tracks. O'Brien said, "Let's be very careful here, Pat. Are you accusing me of criminal activity?"
Yeah.
It says, and Mick Heaney's piece, he says, the host assured the TD that that wasn't the case and backed off from that line of questioning before he could get himself into trouble. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. I really like that. Somebody can catch someone else like that with the truth of what he was trying to do.
Yeah, like Pat Kenny's animus towards Sinn Féin is well known. Like, and I don't think he even tries to hide it. You know, and I know for a fact I've talked to some sinners and that as far as they're concerned, they won't even go on a show. It's a waste of time. From the outside, it's sort of it's a losing battle. It's just attack. And there's, as far as they're concerned, Kenny of course will deny it. He'll say he's just doing his job, but they're saying it's a one-way street.
But I looked at the Examiner on this item too, and they reported a couple of other little details I thought were very interesting. You know, the way that Sinn Féin were the ones that were targeted first of all, and then you had Fine Gael coming in, and then Fianna Fáil, and then the Greens. Simon Harris said, "Oh, these reports of Sinn Féin deceiving the public are a bit sinister."
Yeah.
And at the same time, his own party leader was saying, "Oh yeah, we did that up to 2016 as well."
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
Jude, let me tell you something. I have a few friends who seem to think, you know, that anything that Sinn Féin do is sinister and anything. Jude, I, as a young reporter, sat and listened to a certain councillor back in Donegal who told me at election time half the graveyard in his parish voted. Right. I know another politician who deliberately put in false and sent in reports to a local newspaper about another politician, which were totally fictitious lies, if you want to say. Jude, you can name any number of things. Recently, there was a massive big house. This is Pierce Doherty's house, and it's at 40,000. Must go a lot further in Donegal than it does anywhere else. Up the Ra. Now it was meant maliciously.
Where was that saying?
That was on social media. But Jude, what they didn't tell you was, well, it was actually downright lie. It was Daniel O'Donnell's house, which is for sale for £1 million. You know, my attitude. What my problem is, Jude, I am not standing up for Sinn Féin, but I detest, and I mean the word I detest, is this absolute West Brit bias that you can see everywhere. If Sinn Féin right away, and when you match Micheál Martin and Owen Harris, he's gone. What do you call the other guy, Harris? All these Sinn Féin, Simon Harris. There's a touch of sinister there, and you know other parties are doing the exact same, but that's fine.
Well, you know, almost at the same time as Leo Varadkar was saying they did it in his constituency. Simon Coveney said that, he did it. It was done in his constituency as well.
Yeah.
And as he spoke, the man beside him was a man called James Geoghegan, who is one of the candidates, the Fine Gael candidate in Dublin Bay South.
Yeah.
And he says that he, in fact, himself was one of the people who engaged in this practice. It wasn't just that happened in the party, but he did it. So either they say it was a terrible, damning sin, and our party, who's running in the by-election in Dublin Bay South, has done an awful thing and clearly can't be elected, or else they say it was the kind of practice that everybody got up to. It wasn't commendable, but there's no point in this. I was forming somebody said a
Jude, let's get this clear. I see if you're involved in politics in the Republic of Ireland, your hands are not clean when it comes to dirty tricks. Everybody, and I mean everybody, is up to everything. And by the way, it's nobody's complaining about it. It's par for the course, you know. And you'll never hear Fine Gael complaining about Fianna Fáil, because they're all doing the exact same thing. Any advantage any party can get within the law. In fairness, you know, I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything, but hey, there are all sorts of tricks. You know, and by the way, that's part of the game.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking, if the Shinners or, the Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil or the Greens had gone to the doors and said, we're from the Green Party, or we're from Fine Gael, we're from Fianna Fáil, we're from Sinn Féin, wonder, would you tell us what are your voting intentions? The very fact that they had said who they were. So you can imagine you're in your house and Fine Gael comes to your door and says, I'd like to know what your voting intentions are, if you don't mind. Do you not think it would at least affect you a little bit? There'd be people who would want to, if they were Fine Gael voters, they want to say, yes, I'm with you all the way. And there'd be other people who would say in their heads, I can't stand these buggers, but I'm not going to have a fight. And they would say, oh, yes, I'll be voting Fine Gael or whatever.
I was involved in a campaign with one guy who actually told me, I've got like someone like 100 votes in that estate. He got 2. You know, he went going round and he told every door he left, I got a great reception there, and he says they love me, you know, and he turned around. By the way, that's a distortion of a story that I'm not going to get, but that was the net effect of it. And by the way, I can stand over. He actually told me that he was certain he had garnered X number of votes. He got 2.
Yeah, well, I would just make that point that while it is regrettable, they shouldn't have been doing it. None of them should have been doing it and pretending that they're another, an independent marketing company. You can see the reasons why they did it. In that they wanted the guys.
But Jude, hold on, Jude. Can I know the big point in all this is that it was going to be a massive story off the scale, that it was Sinn Féin, until the other ones came out and said they'd done exactly the same. That's the whole issue.
Yeah, you're right. You're there, right. I think you're right there. And that sort of took the whole wind out of the sails, I'm glad to say. Okay, let's move on to a second item, which is again, it's in the Irish Times this morning. It's by Stephen Collins. And he says something, I find myself agreeing with him for once.
Yeah,
the heading of his article is, Border Checks Inevitable if Johnson reneges on Varadkar deal. That is to say, if Johnson insists on breaking the protocol, there's no choice but to have a land border in Ireland. Now, I don't think it'll come to that, but that is a logical conclusion. There must be a border somewhere to show you're now entering the EU. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You got on ahead of me, because I don't normally agree with Stephen Collins, because I think when it comes to Northern Ireland, Stephen's like Pat Kenny. He's got on blinkers and maybe double blinkers, but he's got it right in this. But Jude, we're here. Joe Biden arrived yesterday in Britain for this Cornwall G7.
Yeah. And
before he arrived, the American government issued what is called a diplomatic démarche. I've never heard the term, by the way. So anyway, I looked it up, and it says basically it's a sort of a complaint or a protest, a diplomatic protest. In other words, they said they're protesting about the way the British government is dealing with the protocol. And basically, they're telling them they were unhappy that the fact that they signed up to agreement and then unilaterally broke it on 2 occasions. Now, Joe Biden is, without question, the most Irish president, and probably in a very long time, probably more Irish even than John F. Kennedy, and everybody thought he was the greatest. So the Americans are basically saying to the Brits, hey, look, we're not happy about what you're doing here. Now, the other thing as well, Sefcovic has said, if they pull this stunt, that the EU will retaliate. And van der Leyen has said that they're running out of patience with Britain, that they have given every chance they can. And I heard Marie McGuinness, the commissioner, on this morning. She says, wait a minute. She says, there seems to be some misinformation out here. She says, we spent 4 years negotiating there. And she says, Lord Frost, they didn't go through it paragraph by paragraph or line by line. She says they went through it word by word. And she said they knew exactly what they were signing up to. And she said, they were grand with it in theory, but now when they realize in practice, she says that is their problem. She says they signed up to it. And she says the EU knew what they were signing up. And she says the Brits were warned about the complications of this, but she says they still went ahead. Now, whose responsibility is that?
Oh, well, quite obviously, I agree with you. If you sign an agreement, you have to live up to it. But I mean, the Tories have form on this. They continue to do the same thing again and again. They sign up to agreements and then they start backing away from them. Now, the thing that struck me about this story is I think that Joe Biden, in a way, has pinned his colours to the mast.
Yeah.
It's not just that a senior person did a démarche or whatever it is to the
Yeah,
Brits. I think it was in the States that they did it actually,
yeah,
called an English ambassador or consul or whatever, and told them they'd want to get their act right. Joe Biden has publicly, if you like, made it clear that he's going to push for the implementation of the protocol. Now, Joe
mm,
Biden cannot afford to get that kind of thing wrong. If he
yeah,
thought for a moment that that wouldn't work, he would have made any moves he would have made would have been behind the scenes and it would have been
yeah.
deniable. As it is, he's come out in the open. So it's a question of who's going to win this argument, really. Is it going to be Boris Johnson or is it going to be Joe Biden?
Well,
Well,
I presume,
my
Jude,
money's on Biden.
I see him here. America or the Brits really need a big trade deal with the EU or with America. Now, Biden is saying that anything to do with the EU will not be a preventative of signing a deal in regard to food standards will be with America and so on. So basically, he is sort of saying, like, Jude, I'm working on the basis just after what you're saying is if the Brits renege on their deal, while Joe Biden is saying all the right things publicly, he's put it on the record. You start messing around with that deal, the deal with America is gone. But he's not saying it. Jude, by the way, the other thing, a lot of I think the Daily Telegraph today is Biden butt out type thing. It's none of your business. But you know, they're also we're sort of downplaying this démarche thing. But apparently, yesterday, neither Boris Johnson nor Joe Biden denied that a
Yeah.
démarche had been sent.
Oh, well, that's one way of saying that it did actually happen.
Yeah,
As
like
I
at no
see it,
stage was it denied.
as I see it, I think there's a pinchers movement. On the one side, there's the EU, and the other
Yeah,
side, there's the US, and Boris is the meat and the sandwich.
yeah,
And if he doesn't straighten up and fly right, I would say there's going to be, because not only you're saying that Joe Biden would see to it, or the Yanks would see to it, they wouldn't do a deal with the UK.
yeah,
The EU is saying if they don't live up to this, we're going to implement the law on this. We're going to bring legal action against them. So they're both serious about what's going to happen if anybody tries dodging this. So I
yeah.
think Boris will find a way of. To be honest, I think it'll be some sort of fudge will emerge. They'll do
As usual, yeah,
some
yeah.
kind of fig leaf for Boris. Not that he's a man who bothers much with fig leaves, I
Big leaves, yeah.
suspect. But
Jude, look at the fact here. He's been offered this thing, the Swiss deal, where apparently 80% of the problems would disappear at the stroke of a pen.
yeah,
And it's a temporary arrangement where they can give both sides time to maybe come up to with a more, as you say, a better fudge, constructive ambiguity. Remember, I thought it was the most wonderful phrase I'd ever come across. They can find something that gives both an opt out, and so on. But they're so far, the unionists, it has to be gone. We don't want any temporary fixes and all the rest of it. Jude, I don't know what it is, but here's the bottom line, Jude. The British signed up to it. The EU signed up to it. The EU has kept their side of the bargain. The Brits have not, and on 2 occasions have broken it. So they can't keep on saying it's the other side's fault.
Well, here I'll just speak up for the DUP since they're not here. I can kind of understand their thinking. They're not so much concerned with trade and the difficulties for workers and not for workers, for business here. And they affect to be very concerned about that, despite the fact that they're the ones who are ultimately responsible for it. They don't mention the Constitution. Like Poots was interviewed, and he never mentioned the Constitution. Never mentioned it.
It's moved
but
from
that's
that
the
argument.
thing that's really worrying them, and I have sympathy with that actually, because it is a fact that if you are treating the island of Ireland as one economic unit, that's another step towards a politically united Ireland. And if I was a unionist, I wouldn't want that to happen. And I would try to.
Can I come back on you on that very point? Right. 56% of the people, let me run this by you again. 56% of the people of the north of Ireland voted against the Brexit. The DUP turned around and said, it's not a Northern Ireland thing. Suck it up. It's all the right. Then when the British government signed a deal, they're now saying, wait a minute, we don't have to accept that this affects Northern Ireland. So we want to switch that around. It does affect us. So, it's not a UK deal. It affects us. So, Jude, when it was one way, they were entitled, they said, suck it up. Now, when it's the other way, they say, oh, no, it's not a UK-wide deal. Their government signed up to it, and they're not accepting it.
I'm surprised that their political opponents, Sinn Féin and Colm Eastwood, who I spotted in the House of Commons apparently saying something. It's a wonder that they haven't really highlighted that very fact, that on the one hand, they say, oh, this is a UK-wide thing. And then when it's a UK-wide thing in different circumstances, they say, oh, no, we've got
no, it's not, exactly.
Anyway, my money's on a fudge. My money's on a fudge, but I would say
absolutely
much more favorable towards the implementation of the protocol than against the protocol. And time will tell, as I say, but I'd be pretty confident. I know I'm a very bad predictor of future events.
Aren't we all?
Future leaders, but I'm going to put my money on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to something that happened on the TV during the week. And I must say, I found it quite significant. You know that these are the final days. I should speak more solemnly and sadly at this moment. These are the final days of Arlene Foster.
Oh, Jesus. Yes,
and
right.
Gareth Gordon asked her, what would she do now that she'd finished? And she made some play on the fact that she was only 50 and she'd have a lifetime ahead of her and she's going to do all sorts of stuff. And Gareth Gordon says, what will you do? And she said, you should read my book, Gareth.
Oh.
And suddenly you could feel a tremor going throughout our province.
Yes.
From the unionist side and particularly the DUP. Because if that book, well, you see, Arlene learned the hard way that books about events can be absolutely scorching.
Absolutely.
Which the RHI book that Sam
McBride
wrote, which really tore her apart. So what do you think? Is she going to write a book, do you think?
Probably, yes. I would buy it. Like, hey, Jude, I'd say she's 50. She's those last couple of months, the RHI, she's a hell of a story to tell. Now, she started off in the UUP and gravitated to the DUP and then gravitated up the pole, up to the top job. And then she was, Japers, I think you used the term, she was decapitated, politically decapitated. And by God, she was, like, it was so sudden, she just lost her head just like that. On a Monday, she was still the party leader. By Tuesday, she was gone.
She used the phrase taken out herself.
Yeah.
Like the way I was taken out.
And Jude, like, even yesterday, there was an opportunity apparently for Pooch to say something sort of conciliatory, and didn't take it. He says he'll say something on Monday, whatever that might be. But even what he called Paul Given, when he was was nominated for the First Minister's job, paid tribute to Arlene and so on. Pooch so far hasn't done it. And
maybe it's a question of nice cop, bad cop.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Given, you mean?
Cops interrogate you. Well, you probably don't.
Oh no! Dr. Like, Pooch is the leader of the party, and the onus is on him to sort of heal the breaches. Now, the leader is the one who speaks for the party, and so far he's made zero effort to reach out to his former leader. And Jude, the legacy of that is still rumbling away. There's somebody else resigned yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but anyway. Emma Pengelly. She didn't use the word resign. She says she's stepping back.
Stepping away from the mess.
Yeah.
Well, I still think you could have a good cop or a bad cop and a good cop. Tough man, Edwin, who will have nothing to do with him really, and the rather more human face, acceptable face, smiling face even of Paul Given, who's rather more simpatico towards.
Hey, by the way, Jude, I'll stop you there. What is your opinion of Given? Because I've made my opinion clear. Like, I think he has gone down. While on the public, I think Sinn Féin are sort of saying nothing. I would say he is detested, and I mean detested, and the rank and file and nationalist Republican circles.
For one reason, if for no other reason. I think there's several reasons, but there's one reason. He will carry a ball and chain for the rest of his political life. And that ball and chain is the contribution to the Giltock grant for kids to go to the Giltock. That he pulled in the mouth of Christmas and then said, "Oh, happy Christmas, everyone." Nobody, not just the Irish-speaking community, nobody on the nationalist side or Republican side will ever forget that. And in fact, probably on the unionist side as well.
And then the photographs of setting fire to the bonfires.
Oh, yeah. I think I agree with you that is quite an image, and it's hard to forget once you've seen it. But I do think that the LEFA grant being pulled away at the last minute, that's what is branded.
It was cheap and it was nasty.
Oh, yeah. So I'd say he'll have a job getting away with that one.
Yeah.
In any case, let's face some facts here. These guys are being installed as first minister and well, he's first minister and deputy first minister, and Putz is the leader of the party. But I mean, they will not be holding office for even 12 months before there's an election. And if the president signs show, it'll be a short tenure.
Should I ask you another question? How does it work if the leader of the party is sitting around the cabinet table and the first minister, like I can understand the party, like Jerry Adams was the leader of the party, but he wasn't sitting around the table when Martin McGuinness was the first minister. The same when John Hume was the leader of the SDLP, and Seamus Mallon and Mark Durkan were he wasn't there. There wasn't a sort of glaring presence sitting at the. Pooch is sitting around the table while the whippersnapper is at the head of the table. How does that work? Does he turn around? By the way, you're not doing that. Whatever his first name is, Paul.
Well, Newton Emerson, who I don't always admire, but he did mention that in one of his articles, that that sort of really hobbled Given from the very beginning and almost made it farcical. Like here you have the guy that's the leader, and you look across and there's his.
I read somewhere Mervyn's story. One of the lines he used, he had no intention of being a mudguard for Pooch. That's why he didn't take the job.
Yeah,
well, didn't want it.
Well, anyway, I'm more excited at the prospect of Arlene's book than I wonder would you let anybody be a ghostwriter for her?
Are you offering me or you for the job?
I think the two of us could do a good job. And we could, instead of having a kiss and tell book, we could have a tell and kick book.
Yes.
Okay, Pat, is there anything else in your mind you'd like to tell me? Any other little weighing on your conscience? There's nothing more. You're at peace with yourself.
All I had was a lovely. No, we went to Mayo this week and it was lovely and it was great to get out of the county, and we had pissed the whole way there and the whole way back, but at least we got.
Well, maybe.
Okay, Jude.
Okay, Pat. Okay, sunshine in your life.
Thank you, Jude.